Comment, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. As the keener-eyed amongst you will notice, I have in the virtual studio Stephanie Mitchel Hughes. This channel is known colloquially as Resilience 2.0. Stephanie has been through a number of hard places, come through the other side, and taking the learning of it to try and apply towards the future and help other people. She's midway through cross-training in helping people recover their mental health and by helping them as a peer support counselor. But she also has a number of missions involving helping people understand where they are so that they can become stronger. Now, we are at a certain time of the year, which apparently we're all supposed to feel and act in a certain way. And I think both of us are in a consensus that we're fed up with being told how to act by a bunch of influencers in various different mediums and categories. What's your thoughts on this, Stephanie?
Well, so we're of a certain age, so that we've seen at this point, we've seen just a few things now.
Just a couple, yes.
Yeah. And we're at this time of the year where we're all supposed to be in wonder and happy and all of that. And don't get me wrong, I love Christmas decorations. I have a Christmas tree. I got my tree up. I'm going to put the rest of my decorations up. London is just awash in Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they do Christmas in a way that, I would just be in awe of, because I'm in awe of all of the pictures. But we have to face the fact that for everyone, and maybe many people, this is not a wonderful time of the year. That song, it's the most wonderful time of the year. For everybody, it's not the most wonderful time of the year. A lot of stuff has happened over the course of this year and the year before that and the year before that.
Well, let me hit you with some American stats just to get us going. Out of an estimated 57.8 million adults, nearly 20% of the country have a mental illness. Only just under half received any kind of mental health care. Over 40,000 Americans die annually from suicide. It's estimated that over half of that is preventable if only they'd had people to talk to.
Well, and one of the hardest things for me, and we've talked about this offline, early as a young lawyer, a lot of my friends, my colleagues, well, a few of my colleagues who really knew me would tease me and say, the only job that you should take that suits you is queen, because I can just sit on my throne and just tell everybody what to do.
Right.
And in one of the things that there are a number of challenges that I had with a former position, the position that I had just before I came to NAMI Franklin County. There were just a few challenges there. And towards the end of my tenure, one of the things that I really had a hard time with is the fact that I just didn't want to continue judging people, because many of those people, I had been in their shoes. I walked in their space.
Right. And you knew the hopelessness of their situation. And here you were having to make a spot judgment, which you knew was going to potentially negatively affect the rest of their life.
Right. Because the law, laws just written on the page, I would say the overwhelming majority of them are written without emotion, and the law is no respecter of persons. So my job was to apply the law to the facts and issue a decision. without regard to whatever was happening with that individual.
Yeah, but in practice, that's great in theory, but in practice, you're a
it can
human,
become
a human woman.
Because I wanted always to be able to help people. And I wanted to be able to, I don't like watching people, and as this title says, Resilience 2.0, I don't like seeing people going through the same thing that I went through. I tell my story not so that you could do it exactly the way that I did it, but because if I can save you a few steps and you just don't keep, it's like, okay, the Jews walked in the wilderness for 40 years, walking around the same circle, whining and complaining because they were eating manna. And it was like, and I spent so much time just walking around in the same circle. And I just want to save people from that.
Incidentally, when I was growing up, I always thought that manna probably tasted a little bit like Captain Crunch. But anyway,
somehow I just don't think that was it. I don't think it was that, because otherwise they just would have. They probably still be in the wilderness going, more Captain Crunch, please. But see, over there, you all do not use all this stuff in food that the people over here do. So it's
amazing. I saw on, I think it was TikTok, it may have been YouTube, a bunch of Americans given to taste the same confectionery, but the UK version and the American version. So these are familiar names like Cadbury's, of course. That Cadbury's do an American version and a UK version. Mars do an American version and UK version. Nestle, Kellogg's even. And you could now, and this is going to be amazing to our UK viewers. They're not going to realize they should be, and this is going to sound weird, thankful that even though we're not members of the European Union anymore, we achieved our Brexit, we're still subject to European law. And European law states about maximum levels of certain chemicals, E-numbers, and so on within food. Those restrictions do not exist in the States. And so if you taste the same chocolate, the Cadbury's version in the UK and the States, the stateside one, they said tasted just like pure sugar and very little else, no flavor. There's pure sugar. Whereas in the UK, it's all creamy. It's much lower amounts of sugar and just a more fulfilled, all-rounded experience overall. You compare the foodstuffs in the States to the UK, where the States, the beef has got growth hormone in it and all sorts of promoting factors.
Hopefully not all of it. But listen. Okay, so Gareth, but this is kind of the thing with the most wonderful time of the year. You know, this year my brother died. You know that we've talked.
I do, and it's still in my memory, and I'm amazed that you function as well as you do, given all that.
Well, you know, and it's really, really been tough, because we've had other serious illnesses in our family on top of that, really serious ones, and people are still navigating that. Now we're down to my mom. It's just me and my mom. My mom's almost 89. And it's, you know, you're watching this huge transition take place. And last week was Thanksgiving. And at our house and growing up, regardless of whether I was going to my grandmother's house or I'm going down to my childhood home, the food was in abundance. That's number one, but was also very, very good. And so last week, of course, was Thanksgiving. And, you know, I kept joking in the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving. People were like, well, what are you guys going to eat? I'm like, we're just going to go to Taco Bell. Now, I don't even know the last time I went to Taco Bell. It's been decades. But I was joking about it because I was just like, I don't, it was my way of saying, I really and truly don't care what we eat. And I don't really have a taste for any of that because I'm here in this huge, huge arc of transition where um, my family is dwindling and the people who define and form my foundation and define who I am are no more. And my cousin is in the same situation because both of her parents are now deceased. And so it's like it's easy to sort of step back and go, what in the world is so wonderful about this? We just should just get through it. But, and this is the big but part of it. But the other part I wanted to add is that I've been reading and watching videos and comments and everything on social media that people keep making about, oh, you should feel this way. You don't have the right to feel the way that you do.
Right.
And it's like, how you're not me.
No, it's
You're
it's
not
it's,
in my
it's completely
experience.
it's completely irritating. These people
Right.
are generalizing without understanding the finer points of one's experience. And you're not the only one. I know a number of people that have gone through monumental change, whether it be businesses that they've relied upon for decades completely failing, whether it's friends and family dramatically moving a long distance away and no longer being available, or if it's the loss of loved ones like you've had. All of it creates trauma. And here we are, it's the end of a year, and we're all supposed to be, hey, and off we go, ready for the new year. Let's make some.
Merrily down the road. But the thing, and so I think that the adults in the room, have to let other people be adults and feel the way that we feel. We are not widgets where we all look the same, act the same, think the same, all of that. What a boring world it would be if we were all just widgets. Now, the big but in this is this, and I just want to leave though with hope because there's always hope. We cannot ever lose hope.
Well, as they say, the last thing that fluttered out of Pandora's box was hope. It's always the thing that we have to rely on. Some people call it hope. I call it hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. And I have my brother and sister-in-law had five grand at this moment. They have 5 grandchildren, which means that I've got 4 great nieces and 1 great nephew, and they are all under their age is 6 and under. And watching them and knowing that they are, as cousins, going to be hopefully very, very close. They are close now as younger children. They live probably less than 5 minutes from each other, because one of my nephews has 3 little girls and my other nephew has a little girl and a little boy.
Well, let's hope that they're going to be the senators, the lawmakers, and the councillors and the philosophers of the future that will help us get through this miasma of distrust and let's face it, people not trying to avoid looking at where we are by pretending we should all be bloody happy.
Right. No, this is where we are, and everybody is not going to be happy and jovial and jumping up and down about it. And I think that we have to allow each other grace and hold space and respect for people to feel the way that they do.
Yes.
And I just hope that because last week before I left Cincinnati, I went to my brother's graveside, and he is buried really close to where almost right next to where my dad is buried. And the thing that I have been thinking about a lot as I've moved forward and try to take care of my mother and help her as much as I can is that there's this thing, and we can end with this, and I'm going to tell this story quickly so that and because I was trying to explain this to my son earlier this week.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you're familiar with this or if they ever showed this in the UK, but in the 1970s there was a program. It started and was based upon a movie called The Waltons Christmas Homecoming. And the Waltons, the story is set in the 1930s. So I'm going to talk about
1930s Australia, as far as I remember.
1930s in I want to say the Waltons lived in West Virginia.
Okay.
So, and the oldest Walton was John Boy.
I remember. Good night, John Boy.
Yeah. Well, the movie, it was based upon Christmas Homecoming, and John Boy's father did not work in the community where they lived. He worked elsewhere, and he would come home at the end of the week. So Christmas is rolled around, and all that day, their mother, who was played by Patricia, the actress Patricia Neal, and the grandmother and grandfather, they were all just bustling about trying to get ready for the next day, Christmas. And the mother's like looking out the window and going, and the day kind of wears on, and the dad is nowhere to be seen. And so, of course, it's the 1930s, so phones are rare, and we definitely didn't have any cell phones. So the mother hears on the radio that there's been a very bad train crash in the area that the father would be coming from, and he might have been on that train, and hears that people have died. So she pulls John Boy aside, and she says, I need you to go find your father. And she explains what happens. Now, John Boy's character was probably maybe 17 or 18 years old. So he takes off, and he's got to catch up with these people who his mother, he has to find these people, go to this person's house, these two sisters, these older sisters. He needs to go to their house and ask if he can use their vehicle to go find his father. And the mother his mom has just very deep concerns about these two elderly sisters because they make moonshine. And his mother had no patience for that. So anyway, as John Boy's out, it's cold. He's trying to figure out how to find his father. And the only thing that he hears in his head is his father saying to him, John Boy. And you can hear the father, they do the thing recording of the John Boy. And he's saying, you know that you're supposed to do da 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 da. All these things that his father told him about being sort of the pseudo man of the family.
What his responsibilities are.
And so over the last year, especially, the only thing I keep hearing in my head is like my dad saying, Stephanie, I need you to step up here, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z. You know that you need to go take care of your mother. You know that you need to go do this, and this for her. And there's been so much stuff happening and moving pieces in my family, and it's been very, very tough to navigate that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, all I can hear is like my dad saying that. So I guess as summary, for me, is it a wonderful time of the year? I guess I could say that because there's hope. I have hope for the future. But the other thing is that I am still here. I might be limping, I might have broken limbs, etc., but I'm still here.
So and that in itself is worth celebrating, because sometimes the very fact that when you've gone through hard places, when you've come out the other side, when you've been battered by the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, when you've had situations that you were unprepared for but managed to deal with and come out and still maintain some level of mental health, that just the survival is worth celebrating. And if nothing else, we mark this time of year by saying we achieved survival. We achieved getting through it. We still have 2 arms and 2 legs. We are still capable of putting food on the table. We are still here. And that's worth, so that's even in a defiant shaking the fist against the ghosts of Christmas past. We're still here because we've managed to get through it. And I think that's the positive note that I want to end this podcast on. Guys, it's worth it. I don't care if nothing major for you has been achieved this year. The fact is you are still here and you are ready to face the new year. And we don't know what the future holds. We may think we do, but in truth, we can't predict it. The only time we're certain about it is when it's right in front of us. So let's just deal with what's happening right there. Let's not look too far in the future. Let's not spend a lot of time looking at the past and going, well, we could have, we should have. Let's not do that. Let's not be full of regret. Let's be full of wonder and look forward. And on that note, thank you so much, Stephanie, for spending time with me today. It is a podcast about resilience, but it's also a podcast about hope. And today, in the words of Sesame Street, today's word is the word hope, and it's brought to you by the letter H. And until next time we speak, I wish all of you well. Keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and try and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody.